The Public Service Union presents PSU Speaks, an interactive, informative, bi-weekly program discussing matters affecting the working class. Tune in to Nice Radio on 90.3, 96.7, and 101.3 every second and fourth Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. PSU Speaks. Don't you miss it.
Power rules the world today. Power corrupts, they say. And absolute power corrupts you. Absolutely. It can change a man who has a heart of gold, make him cruel, wicked, self-centered and cold. Many men in this land, many organizations fought for freedom and justice throughout the land. When they have power and authority, they don't give a damn about nobody. Prostituting the island to all and sundry, they peddling my people's right, exploiting, oppressing, less freedom, more suffering. I wonder how we survive. Take it over, my friend. Take it over again. Take it over, don't vex with me, shorty. Take it over, I'm singing as I sing. Oh, we can't even buy. Murder, the price too high. Malnutrition killing the children while we the adults starving. Yet the price is rising without control. Young man begging bread by the side of the road. And chamber of commerce in this land, I tell you, they don't give one damn. The more we try to economize, the more cost of living rise. When they have power and authority, they don't give a damn about nobody. They prostituting the island, milking the land dry. They making my people starve, exploiting, oppressing, less freedom, more suffering. This thing just can't go on. Take it over, my friend. Take it over, carefully again. Take it over, don't vex with me, shorty. Take it over, I'm singing as I sing. Work we can't even find. Life seems a waste of time. Nothing to do but sit around the corner line. So frustrated, some would rather starve than beg. Others turn to crime and steal what they can get. And the judges have no sympathy, they're hammering everyone that they catch. Even little children are jailed without regret. When they have power and authority, they don't give a damn about you or me. I want to do lock me up when they catch me, smoking little tampy while the social rich are freed, exploiting, oppressing, less freedom, more suffering. A poor man's life is really hard indeed. Take it over, my friend. Take it over, carefully again. Do it again. Take it over, vex with me, shorty.
So, good night, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and welcome to another program of PSU Speaks. It's always a pleasure for us to be here in studio, today being the 22nd of September 2025. And this program is basically a continuation from last program, in addition to some other issues that we want to address. We have in studio special guests, and we have some persons would be joining online shortly. But as usual, before we proceed into our program, we want to have the scripture that would be read. We want to start our program off by doing a scripture verse, and we are going to ask our first Vice President, Sister Studdard, to do that for us before we proceed any further.
Okay, thanks, Shirley. Good night, everyone. The scripture is taken from Psalms 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The heathen raged, the kingdoms were removed. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he had made the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burned the chariot in the fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will exalt it among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Here's the reading.
Thank you, Sister Studdard, and that is a confirmation that regardless of what the situation is or how gloomy life may seem, we know that God is still in control and that He will continue to fight for us as we continue to fight for our members, our hard-working, dedicated public servants in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So tonight we have a very packed program, very interesting program, and we're hoping that you, our members, and the general public will engage us tonight. Call us, let us know that you're listening, and to make your own contribution. So to do so, you can call 456-5967. That is in studio. You can also call via WhatsApp 498-3802, and you can do so via Magic Jack if you're in the diaspora, 718-734-5615. So in studio tonight we have our first vice president who I would allow to introduce herself in a little bit, and we have a special guest. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, and we have online, I hope our president can hear us. I see he has just joined us. So, Sister Stoddard, you can greet us or greet the members.
Good night to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and those who are listening from the diaspora. Welcome to Psu Speaks, another program. And tonight I want to greet those persons who still are on the breadline because of the wicked vaccine mandate that was passed. We are with you still. We are praying for you. And even this month, I was discussing with my children, like we were waiting and saying, with all the expense you had preparing for school, you would have used up a lot of monies, and you're saying, when is this month going to end? And I know the terrible time that some parents are going through. And for you, those persons who are on the breadline and who you have lost so much, I feel your pain. I know what you're going through. And to those retirees who are wishing and hoping for an increase in their pension, because every day food prices are going up, your doctor bill going up, medication going up. We're here with you. And to those persons who are listening, and sometimes they meet you from time to time. If on Sunday somebody say hello to me and say, I'll always listening and continue to do the good job that you guys are doing. So good night, everybody. Those persons from the got some new people on board. Those statutory bodies are joining us day by day. We welcome everyone and thanks for having me another night, Sister Shelley.
Thank you, Sister Stoddard. And over to our special guest.
Well, good evening to you both in studio, Sister Alexander Ross. It's really a pleasure being here, joining with you all to do this program today. Today, Monday, being the 22nd of September 2025. It's been quite a while since I've been in the program. For those listeners who are wondering who I am, my name is Harvey Farrell, and I am one of the retirees who continue to work very close with my union.
Thank you, Brother Harvey, and we appreciate the work that you have been doing over the years. And we know that when we call on you, you are always willing and ready, and we really, really appreciate that. I am going to allow our president, Brother Elroy Boucher, at this time to greet us. He's not in studio with us, he's online, and he did let us know that he would accept the invitation when we sent it, and we did send an invitation and he accepted it again. So we want to allow him to greet us at this time. Brother Boucher? You can go ahead.
It's freezing.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Oh, you're hearing me. Sorry. My screen is freezing actually, so I can't even see the mic button. So let me say good night to the listeners of Nice Radio, and particular the hardworking public service union members in the studio. Harvey, I'm really pleased that you are there and you have a wealth of knowledge and experience. And again, Gwyneth, of course, um, continue to give of her very best. And Shelley, of course, needs no mention. So I really have to say that because at every turn and every when you look left, right, or center, Shellyan is there and Gwyneth is there, and they've been doing a terrific job thus far. So again, pleasant good night to all the members who are listening, whether you're a member of the union or you're not. I trust that this program tonight would be one that you can learn something from and give you information so that you're in a better position to make decisions regarding the direction of the country and your very own lives.
Thank you, Brother Boucher, for those warm words and greetings, and we appreciate your presence. So thank you for being here. Um, as I mentioned before, we have a very packed program, a very interesting one. Um, the first topic that we're going to be talking about is no stranger to you. We have been talking about this issue from 2020, 2021. 2021, it really came into effect, and when the government brought the law, the vaccine mandate law, I think most persons by now would be familiar with what transpired in 2021, how the government, though they say they did not fire the persons, we know what they did. And we want to address a statement that was mentioned by Mr. Peter Wickham. It was on social media in one of those online news network, and we want to ask the question because he made a bold statement that really the vaccine mandate has no bearing on how the elections results would go, because in his view, Vincentians by now would have forgotten. I don't see how people can forget if you take bread out my mouth and allow me to suffer. I don't see how people easily forget suffering and hard times. Maybe Peter Wickham has done maybe he was doing a paid program. I don't know, but we will see. So we want to ask the question: Vincentian have moved past the vaccine mandate, says Peter Wickham. Is this true?
Well,
So even before we get to whether or not we true or false or something like that, we want to remind persons who may not have gotten a chance to read the article. So I'm going to ask Brother Harvey, you have the article before you.
well,
If you
yes.
want to read
I
it or
actually have.
highlight some of
I
the areas of it that
I actually have the Eyewitness News of September the 15th article. It's titled, Wickham believes vaccine mandate wouldn't affect SVG's election results. And, the article opens thus. Barbadian pollster and political scientist Peter Wickham says he believes that the vaccine mandate, that Vincentians have moved beyond the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. That's the opening statement in this piece. And but in response, the author of the article went on to say, he said that Peter Wickham went on to say, I am surprised that would still be an issue, because I think that most people have gone past it. Many have gone past it in many ways. I am not one of the persons who believe that we have gone past that vaccine mandate. And as the article points out, that Peter Wickham actually said that we have already tested it, and the ULP has passed the vaccine mandate test in the 2020 elections. Now, the vaccine mandate actually took effect about a year after the 2020 elections. And so it has never been tested. But what we are seeing is that we have to always remember that as we move further and further away from the date of the vaccine mandate, people's lives, those whose lives have been impacted by the vaccine mandate, have progressively gotten worse in most instances. So we don't believe Peter Wickham's statement when he made it in that regard. So that's what I have to say in terms of my opening comments on it.
Stoddard, anything before? Because I want to ask a question. Any comments? Okay, because usually when persons make such bold statements, he mentioned the 2020 election and whether or not, and made the statement that the Unity Labour Party basically passed the test. But maybe he forgot when the vaccine mandate came into effect.
Yeah, I really believe so. And later on in the article, Peter Wickham actually admitted that he has a bias for the vaccine, but that is really his own impression. And it from what the article says is that Wickham really in this case was not wearing his scientific hat.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually giving his own personal feelings about what has been taking place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We know that he's not a resident of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, we are aware that he has done quite extensive work here for the ruling ULP in terms of poll polling and that sort of thing. But really, in terms of his presence here and getting people's own feeling, I'm not quite sure that all of that was taken into consideration.
And we know he didn't do a poll. It's just
I was just going to ask that what on what authority he was really speaking.
he didn't do a poll, so he
Um,
just came up with that's his own
because
thing. Like
usually when you make such bold statements, you would want to back it up by statistics to say, okay, well, you would have done the groundwork, the groundwork, or you have done a poll. I see we're having a very early caller. Caller, good night.
Good night, my sister. Nakami lang. And good night to everybody there.
Good night.
I don't understand, my brother. I send you information concerning what is happening. Why should we be worried with what Mr. Wickham? Mr. Wickham would, under the democracy, would have a right to make his assessment, just like you would make your assessment. That's democracy. But what we want in this program is to find out what is happening to our people. Because our people are left out. We have to wait until Friday speak, until the union speak we have to speak for ourselves. And as I call people, the reality is that people didn't want to take the vaccine. And now we know from the teachers, 50 of their teachers who took the vaccine, they're dead. And the reality is that I would not have been bothered if the vaccine was just totally effective. It's taken lives. And we were told it is safe and effective. And so what you would happen eventually, in closing, Mr. Wickham is going to get away because he knows that the people who are supposed to be defending us, they are so weak that because there's still people who got injured, waiting to go line up to go vote while guns have. We have to now go to the highest level, to the courts to say our citizens were deceived with a poisonous substance and call for the resignation force of Mr. Gonsalves. But when we sit here and spend the time when we come, Mr. Gonsalves would get away and keep getting away.
Thank you.
I am calling for Mr. Gonsalves.
Thank you. Thank you.
And all the chief
Thank you, as usual, Mr. Hamilton. We hear your passion. We know this is a very sensitive and touchy subject for you, and we know you mean well, but I just had to push out. But thank you for your contribution. We really appreciate it. Mr. Farrell, you were making
I was
a
saying
point.
one of the other things that negates that will help to negate Wickham's claim is the Pfizer papers that are now out, and everybody's talking about it. We know our columnist Jomo Thomas wrote an extensive piece on it in the weekend's paper. When he looks at the Pfizer papers and quite a bit of information, so much information has come out in support of in support of persons who have been opposed to the vaccine mandate. And a lot of the concerns that people had in the past is now being released by the very people who produced one of the vaccine, Pfizer, that was used extensively during the mandate. One of the things that Wickham went on to say is that well, from his research that he did through the Caribbean for UNICEF, he thinks that a number of people did not take the vaccine or trying to make a political statement. I am hard pressed to believe that is so. And I believe too that if the people were making political statements, then we would have had more people taking the vaccine.
Correct.
Because the ULP has, in terms of the size of the voting public, we are split just about half, and we did not have half of our adult population taking the vaccine. So I am not quite sure that we can really use that. So But what we do know is that people have been suffering and continues to suffer. And as we move further and further away from that timeline, people's lives are becoming more and more miserable every day. So if we're looking at this, I think that Peter Wickham is totally off key. And I believe firmly that this vaccine mandate will be a compelling factor in the upcoming general election. And perhaps we can thank Peter Wickham for making that outlandish statement to bring it back to the fore.
Correct. because he's the one who claims that by now people have gone past, and now you have just brought it back to like that people have lost their livelihood. Some persons have lost their property. Some persons are suffering. They're trying to keep their head above water by doing our
Persons
jobs.
that also lost their families.
And how are people going to pass that so easily when you get up every day and it's the same thing that is staring you right in front of the face? We're on the ground and we hear our workers, we hear the complaints all the time. How much workers are suffering.
But you know what is interesting, Sister Ross, is that, I mean, you are a nurse, and you know it was just a couple of months before the vaccine mandate that you all were hailed as capeless heroes.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, James P, I think it was, who did a song, Capeless Heroes, and our Prime Minister had I think he had taken that song to one of the CARICOM meetings, as they can use it as an anthem for the selfless way in which workers at in hospitals, well, generally overall in healthcare, how they roll up their sleeve under such trying conditions. And that was at the time when we knew very little about the disease and so on. And then just months after, you have turned those people into villains. Then something has happened. Something really, really went wrong somewhere.
And you know what really bothers me, as you said, I'm so happy that he came and he brought this so that we can see and we can go over and over and re-emphasize what we need to remind the persons of. So those persons who have to go back to their job and take the job without regaining their benefits, regaining sick days, vacation days, and these things. We want them to remember that. So it's not just going back because of going back's sake, but you lost all these benefits. Keep it in mind that at the end of the day, the PSU is fighting for you to get back your benefits. And we just hope and trust that at the end of it all, you do what is best for you.
Before I ask Brother Boucher if he has anything that he just want to comment, any comments that he want to make, I can't see, because for the last ruling from the High Court, and even before, we were talking about this draconian measure, the word draconian. I don't think you can get any worse than that. Where a judge is saying whatever was done was a wicked act.
Very much so.
A wicked, cruel act that was done to public servants, dedicated public servants who served for 10, 20, 15, 30 years.
25 years.
Who've been told, okay, you're coming to work every day, but you have still abandoned your job.
Yeah.
Because they choose not to
take the vaccine.
Take a product when it was offered to them. So even if the court ruled, well, we know the ruling, and the descending judge did outline his part of it, and he stated that this really should not have happened. There should have been or could have been other measures. So we want to say to Mr. Wickham, I am not sure if that was a paid programming or paid advertisement or whatever it was, but we are on the ground. We're hearing the cries of the people. And even for persons who took the vaccine and would say, whatever they did, whatever the government did,
Was wrong.
was wrong.
And the problems, Shelley, the problems that they're causing persons health-wise, that was mentioned in some, I think it's Jomo's presentation. And I was even sharing it with one of my co-worker today, that this young man said, since he took the vaccine, his sexual part of it is not that
Not
good,
functional.
not functional.
Okay.
And you know, we may laugh. He said, these are his exact words, right? My wife will know if I cheat, or my spouse will know if I cheat, because when I used to make 1 and 2, I can't. I only could make 1. Right? So if I go and take it outside, when I come, I can't do it now. So she will know. You want, and then these people think that the vaccine was so good. A lot of people took the vaccine and still came down with COVID and died. Some people died.
But don't forget, we almost had to Parliament. I mean, the budget debate of 2021 was threatened because of members on the governance side came down with COVID, and they all claimed that they were vaccinated, but they all had COVID. You know, so we have to look at that. We know the mandate came on when we knew that, one, the vaccine was not effective in preventing spread or death. That's it.
Okay. So, Brother Boucher, because we want to bring down the curtains on this particular topic. Any comments?
Well, firstly, like everyone, I would have looked at the article by Mr. Wickham. Quite interestingly, something he said very early, which is he's basically saying he's surprised that this issue is still a contentious one. He's surprised. And I think that is what led to much of his opinions. Because I think he was actually caught off guard that the majority of Vincentian are still up in arms about this particular issue. If it is not relevant, if it doesn't hold the same weight, why is it still a contentious issue? Why are you mentioning that you are surprised that it is still a contentious issue? It is because you realize now that it is still in the air. Now,
True.
so to push back against that, all that followed afterwards is just bare rhetoric in an attempt to push back against what he found on the ground. He didn't come and say that he did a poll. He's a pollster, right? And a statistician like that would present evidence via his polling that this is not an influential issue, or it will not be an influential issue in the election, but he cannot find any. So all he can do is to, remember, he's a pollster. He has been a pollster over the past years for the ruling party. So you can't be surprised that he's putting a plug for them at the same time, given the realities on the ground. That is understood. He has actually veered off from his professionalism in making the statement that he has made, right? Because his opinions are actually baseless. And if people read carefully what he's saying, they're really baseless. For a scientist to make these statements, he has veered off from his professional training. as a pollster, you do not make those statements in the absence of evidence. Now, that is one. Two, his comments could be interpreted as gross disrespect to the Vincentian public and the Vincentian people. The majority of Vincentians were opposed to this vaccine mandate. The majority of them, there are only 23% uptake with respect to vaccines, and it was mandated. That is only to tell you, among the countries that didn't have a mandate, the rates were higher. People resented being forced to take an experimental drug in their bodies. I have had numerous conversations, particularly with nurses, who said to me, they are just waiting for the elections. If they think they are going to forget, they have a shock to receive. Because they are angry that they were forced to do something that they did not want to do. So that fundamental right to your body is what he has looked past and say, hey, why are you making noise? And it is consistent with the government's rhetoric even in other areas. So when Ralph Gonsalves said, stop your grumbling until after elections, that is what Wickham is actually trying to say. You have suffered. Forget about that.
Let's move on until we can sort that out. Yeah, right.
Forget about the fact that your rights were set aside and you were forced to take an experimental drug that scientists are now discovering is having more negative impact on people than anything else, and will affect people going far into the future. You're now finding that out, but that was already suspected. So amidst all of that, he's saying, like Gonsalves, well, Vincent just shouldn't bother with that. That shouldn't be a factor. You have been hurt, bruised, destroyed, lost jobs, over 500 persons, families who have their families, their children are now adults, they have their extended families. So thousands of people have been impacted, down to the very poorest man who was sweeping the street. He should forget that bread was taken out of his mouth or her mouth because they were forced to take something and they were just cleaning the streets of Kingston. Forget all about that. So he is actually insulting the intelligence of the Vincentian people. And he has uttered a total, his utterances is a statement, a radical statement, basically that, yeah, our rights, what we have experienced, doesn't matter because we are just voting cattle. We should just ignore it and just move on. He has no respect for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is the message that I want to be sent to this particular so-called professional pollster. He has no respect for the people of the country. And in particular, for those whose families and their extended families, those continue to suffer, he has absolutely no respect for them. He has no respect for the value of fundamental rights. Mia Motley was a different leader in this regard. All of the leaders of the Caribbean were different type of leaders in this regard. Our leadership in this country were the most wicked ones who imposed such a draconian measure. When a dissenting judge who is of Caucasian, who is a Caucasian, will make such a statement. You understand? That is quite significant. Draconian. Those things belong to slavery days, when you force people to do what this government forced us to do. It is a wicked government that have done that. And that is significant and will play a part in this election, whether Peter Wickham like it or not. The ULP and Dr. Ralphie Gonsalves is hoping that this matter is put to rest. But that hope is a false hope.
No rest.
It will not be put to rest. Every single one of those politicians who are running for the ULP, who stood and forced the Vincentian people to be vaccinated, while nobody know whether they took the vaccine or not. Nobody know that, you know. Nobody know that. It is possible that they never did. Because it's a test drug, and they probably didn't want themselves to be tested like lab rats, but allow the people and force the people to go through that sort of experience. Every one of them, their names will be called, and the Vincentian people will be reminded over and over again that this is a wicked bunch of politicians who have made a promise to do the same thing again and again and again. It is only stupid people will hear you telling them that I'll put you through the same suffering over and over again and still go and give them the power to do that. The Vincentian people are not stupid. They are intelligent people. And I am confident that they are going to stand up and rebuke this wicked regime. And I'm going to say it plainly, and get them to hell out of office.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Brother President, you using powerful language. Rather colorful too.
I endorse.
People suffer too much.
Too much.
I'm sorry.
And continues to suffer because
to suffer, and they don't care.
To suffer.
They do not care.
When we had the results of the court, and we had that church service, right?
Yeah.
And the lady went up and spoke. These people cried because of this suffering. So they thought after that hearing, you would hear something. Never know the man going to appeal the case. And then after that, another appeal again. So like we hear the people them is suffering more and more. How can you forget this government take bread from your mouth? How can they forget?
Yeah, but now that we are in it, I just want to ask Brother Boucher quickly, if has there been any indications at all when the court might be meeting that you can have leave to go to the Privy Council? Any indications at all?
Yes, I think that was stated by council that should happen this year. I think when the court gets here, that matter is down for hearing.
So that's sometime in November then?
Yes, it is down. Yeah.
There's a strong possibility that it may be after the election.
Like you have information we don't have.
I don't know. I'm just
I have often said, and this is the reality, as you mentioned the election, it is important just to re-emphasize the importance of going to the Privy Council because it is on the books, right? And therefore, it must be addressed because it is a future threat to the people of the country. Now, it can be resolved partially by a change of government. Because right. the NDP government have stated very clearly that they will repeal the law that paved the way for this draconian vaccine mandate. And they will try and undo some of what the ULP government did. But nevertheless, it is important for us as a people and as workers to have the Privy Council pronounce on it, so that in the future, if there ever is again, when this government goes out of office, if there ever is again another such wicked regime, the law will be there and the Constitution to protect us.
Yeah. So
Thank
that's
you.
the importance. So any listener or anybody who's been wondering why take the time and the money and whatever resources it takes to go to the Privy Council, I don't think you could have put it better than that. That's the reason why you must go.
Yes, because we need to. He himself, Mr. Gonzalez himself, needs the Privy Council to rule because he really wants to know whether or not the government would have done, whatever the government would have done was the right thing. So, Brother Boucher, thank you for your contribution. Thank you, panelists, for your contribution. We're going to take a short break. And this is what, for the persons who continue to push this narrative that Vincentian should forget, don't bicker about it. Let's just vote and get it over with, and we can talk about it after. That narrative, for the bunch of persons who sit, whether they sit in cabinet or wherever they sit, Tajo wants to remind them of what happens to these type of people. All right?
The devil contacting me, want to give me a walk in hell. I tell him straight up front, I don't want to ring no bell. I said, so you must understand, I want a job as a fireman. I want to blaze hellfire under some man and woman. The devil then said to me, like you don't want to make money. I said, so I'll be doing this job for free. I want to work for my daily bread, keep the hellfire hot and red. I waiting patiently for they reach the land of the dead. So all the men who love rape woman, when you hear the fall in my hand, it's fire, a blazing under them brass. Mothers who sell out their girl picnic, make them sleep in man for money. It's fire, a blazing under them brass. All them rascal politicians who involved in racket and scam. It's fire, a blazing under them brass. So try and live your life very well to avoid coming down to hell. Cause it's fire for you when you reach the land of the dead. The devil then turned to me and he asked me this question. He was curious to know why I wanted that position. I said, devil, I must admit, the kind of act some people commit. Get away with it, sometimes it does make me sick. Some people just commit some crime, have to be really sick in their mind. I'm waiting patiently to see their face in the line. I want to be the judge and jury, offering no pity nor sympathy. They shall feel my wrath fire at the highest peak. You see all the priests and the clergymen who sodomize the little boys them. It's fire, a blazing under them rats. And the rich with their millions get so much time from starvation. It's fire, a blazing under them rats. Scientists who make corona kill so much people the world over. It's fire, a blazing under them rats. So try and live your life very well to avoid coming down to hell. Cause it's fire for you when you reach the land of the dead. He said, Tacho, I understand. I could see where you're coming from.
You have my consent, I award you the position. I was very happy, I admit, to be employed in the bottomless pit. I will be standing there with my fork and my whip. There are those who commit some act, use money to cover them track. They shall feel my wrath, this fire right round the back. I'm gonna be standing at the gate, cause I want them to know their faith. To avoid my wrath, repent before it's too late. Them fake preachers and them pastor, hide their sins behind the altar. This fire, a blazing under them rocks. And them pop-outs and pedophile, full of the police people of your tribe. This fire, a blazing under them rocks. Women who take their husband money, and I'm when the young boy did it. This fire, a blazing under them rocks. So try and live your life very well, to avoid coming down to hell. Cause it's fire for you when you reach the land of Israel.
Okay, and you heard Tajo.
Fire under the
Fire.
rocks.
And the Public Service Union of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will continue to blaze the fire under this administration who continue to make public servants suffer all the discrimination, all the hardship that public servants who work willingly and commit themselves to nation building continue to have the hardship of. So I hope you listened well. For those who like to listen and take notes, that the Public Service Union of St. Vincent and Grenadines will continue to blaze the fire where we have to blaze it. Right? So we have joining us tonight our women's chair, Sister Anastasia Wickham Caesar. Are you hearing us, Sister Stacy?
Loud and clear, Sister Ross.
So your greeting is now. It's late. So greet us and we will go straight into our other topic.
Good night, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Good night. A special good night to our members and workers throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Tonight, I'm here especially to look at violence against women and girls. As you would have seen, so many of our women are being abused and being killed. And I don't know what's happening in our country, but we really need to do something about what's happening. Not just to speak up and speak out, but we have to find some measure, some way to heal our land. So I will rest a minute here, Sister Ross, until you ask me back in.
Right. So thank you, Sister Stacy. That's our women's chair. And I know you have a very heavy mandate, you and your committee, in terms of what you put in place and what you push for the government to put in place for women and girls here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we want to ask the question of to look at whether or not, because we have seen so many, and they're so it's so frequent now that whether or not this is becoming normalized.
Yeah.
Is it something that we just accept, and when the fire is there, we're all blazing and hot, and when okay, we just look at them as another victim and move on? What is happening is that what is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that is it that now we're looking at it as, oh, just another woman,
Just another woman.
no, just another child, just another, what is really happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Sister Shelley-Ann, the last time we were here 2 weeks ago, when the young lady got stabbed from the police, I called out, I asked, is there a woman's desk in St. Vincent? I know before we had one. Is there a minister of gender affairs? And a week after, I heard Minister Kissel Peters came out and made a statement. But what is or her government is planning to do. And by the way, they didn't do it for all the years, so I don't expect them to do anything now. They might try to say something and put something on paper, but I doubt anything is going to happen because the Minister of National Security isn't putting anything in place, isn't saying anything either.
He has maintained a dignified silence when it comes to crime, not just crime against women and girls, but crime in general.
General, yeah.
The Minister of National Security, really for close to a year now, has not said anything
Anything
at
at
all
all.
in relation to crime. So one wonders, where are we when it comes to measures put in place to fight crime? Don't just tell us we have more boots on the ground. Boots on the ground without the requisite equipment, the requisite technology, and all of that, you know, will be useless. I'll just share this because if we look at the speed in which and the determination, the deliberate determination that this government, this administration, Ralph Gonsalves led administration, goes about things that they really want to pursue. Look and see how quickly they can get them done. This is a man who just solved all of West Indies cricket woes that we've had over 30 years. He solved them in one weekend.
He tried.
He solved it in one weekend, right? But we have crime here going, just running rampant in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And he has not even made an effort. The last thing we heard from him on crime is that we're rolling out, but we can't say what it is because the criminals, well, words to that effect, I'm not quoting verbatim, would know. But you can solve everything else. You know, you can solve other things that are really not related to you or the people directly related to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is amazing.
So the question now we can ask, because I don't know if we have taken that initiative to look at the root cause or causes of the type of violence that we're having against this marginalized group of persons, including women and children. I know men like to say, "Oh, well, what about the men? Men are abused too." Well, let's say gender based. So we widen the gap a little bit rather than condense it. But we know that the more vulnerable ones and the ones that you would often hear about and the rates are higher are with women and children. What is really happening that are contributing factors? Have they done anything in terms of, because you can't address an issue, you can only address an issue if you can identify what is causing the problem, and so then you can put structures in place, you can put measures in place to deal with the issues that are the root causes.
The thing is, I mean, we know that the root cause of crime, a multiplicity of factors that contributes to crime. Um, and we can perhaps sit down here for the balance of the night, and still we may not be able to exhaust these because there are many. What people are really asking for is for us to recognize that we have a problem.
Right,
One.
correct.
And once we have a problem, then we can move forward collectively to see if we can find solutions, because crime is not something that the cabinet can solve by
They themselves,
itself,
right.
right? But we must first recognize that we have a problem. And I am not sure that the members of our cabinet wants to recognize that we have a problem with crime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am not convinced.
Actually, we need a home for battered women. Sometimes women go to the police station and make a report to say that they are in this violent relationship with their spouse. But then they have to go back in the home. They might go away for a couple of days and the man hunt them down and bring them back home. And they're being abused again. So we have to start. And some one or two of the issue, the murder that took place, is like the partner, the woman say, I'm finished with you. And the man can't deal with that. Right? So we have to start somewhere, as Harvey said. We have to try to find out the root cause and go from there. And sometimes I don't know what is really going on in some young people's head, because these young people just killing the young girls.
Sis, I would just want to jump in here a little bit in
Go
relation
ahead,
to,
Sister Stacy.
yeah, what Sister started was say we really need somewhere for to where our women can go, because I'm wondering, because a lot many of our women, when they are abused, they do go back to the home. Sometimes the police themselves will tell you that they're not getting involved, because when they try to remove them, the women themselves up and go back without. So some of them are telling you they don't want to get involved because of this. So do you think that with a home that persons would refrain from going back to that abusive spouse or partner and stay with in the home? You think that is gonna work? I'm just throwing this question out.
It's an option, Stacy, because sometimes we know we have a lot of social issues, and a lot of times persons stay because the breadwinner is really the husband or boyfriend, fiance, however it is. And sometimes they're looking for another option and there might not be any. So to them, okay, I leave, yes, but you might get support for a short while. And then what happens after? Our issue, I think, is sustainability of what should be, and not just trying to deal with it in an acute way and just leave it lagging. What happens after that? So maybe if we have something in place that persons can look forward to, and persons can say, okay, this is in place and it is therefore on a long-term basis. But if you don't have anything to look forward to, some persons are going to just go back. It may not be the right thing, and you might be saying, but why are you going back to the situation that may potentially kill you?
Yeah, I quite agree. I just wanted that question to come up, because a lot of people, when we talk about women and talk about women issues, some of them, this is the excuse that they make. But that does not mean, as I would always say, that does not mean if the person go and make a report 100 times, the police should still look in on the matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yeah,
point I wanted to
so
get
we
across.
we are looking
Another.
here. You
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead, sister.
Oh, I was just gonna just read something from the data from the United Nations, where it says approximately 1 in 3 women globally have experienced physical or sexual violence, often by intimate partners, with male perpetrators accounting for over 90% of domestic abuse cases. Violence against women and girls is recognized as a severe human rights violation, requiring coordinated prevention, intervention, and support measures at local, national, and international levels to protect victims and advance gender equality.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to bring that about, and go back to agreeing that we really need a home as an option for our women, where they can go in the event that they're being abused and they need to move out from that home, and give them a chance before where they can get going before they could actually move do something on their own or make their own way.
Brother Harvey, you were going to make a point?
Oh, you know, the in the whole issue again on violence against women and children. What we do need is for us. I don't know if it's a special branch of the police force we may need, a core group of persons who with specialized training who can really respond to a number of those incidents, particularly where we're having domestic violence and where the woman feels that she has to go back into the home, and so on. So our police need to be trained to be able to handle all of these. So it calls us some specialist form of training, and not just necessarily putting more boots on the ground. But the when it comes to violence against women and children, um, all sectors of society needs to be on board for us to be able as a society and a whole to respond. But a lot of it has to do with the policymakers have to set the right framework for us to be able to respond, because there can be very little value if just as individuals we try to do something. Somebody try to hold a rally here, somebody try to hold some sensitization there. We need to go beyond that. We need to have, whether it's laws or whatever, that can give persons who wish to assist the teeth that they can bite, you know, and not just having things loose. So we need, it's a lot of us that have to get on board collectively to help when it comes to solving this, responding appropriately to this violence. I know the minister of Peter, which one of those ministers responded?
Kissing Peters.
And she is minister of what? It will be interesting to see what she had to say in response to the recent surge, that the most recent incidents that took place.
So while Sister Stoddard get that article for us, because I know you made mention of it,
Yeah, somewhere.
I just want to ask a question now, because we have like 5, maybe 10 minutes max on this particular topic left. So I know we would normally be in partnership with international and local agencies, whether it be the UN or the World Bank, who sometimes help to build capacity by, making financial contribution or financial investments. And I know the government would often talk about things that they would have done, things such as enacting the Domestic Violence Act and establishing genders affairs and a referral system that they may have, and public education, etc., promoting youth programs. I know they had like the pan on crime or something like that going on. But have all of this, have they been effective? Because, I mean, you can say we have all of this in place, but the effectiveness of these interventions is critical. And if these interventions that we have had and we like to talk about so ever often is not working because crime continues to surge, Mr. Farrell, something has to be wrong.
I the thing is, those persons who have deep religious faith might tell you that these are prophecies being fulfilled. I mean, we can't throw our hands up in the air and say that, however, but clearly the authorities, the government must be able to respond um, to these crimes as they come out. Then again, it is how we prepare our security forces to respond. What tools are we giving them? How are we equipping them? We have to look at those. Um, so, and also we have to include every single agency, the churches, the social, all our social partners, and so on. But one of the things that we have observed over the years is that there has been a significant decline in a number of the social partners that we have, a number of organizations that have been in society that could have assist in areas like these. A number of these organizations have seemed to have disappeared over time, making response to a number of not only the issue of crime, but a number of the other social issues that we have, because that uh, we that this that social support that we used to have in the past no longer seems to be there, because a lot of the organizations have disappeared. Um, I don't know what has happened, but perhaps we need to try to bring some of those back and see how we can focus.
I think we can also look at it, because we were looking at it quite broad, um, in terms of violence against women in the workplace and how women are treated in the workplace, and the fact that some women basically think their back is against the wall because they've been exposed, they've been exploited, I would say, and they've been exposed to all these sexual advances and so forth, maybe in exchange for being threatened and so forth. So it's some persons may not say, because some persons are of the opinion that if they speak out, you may not have a
We know what
job, or
can be at
you
stake,
may
yeah.
be demoted or whatever. So you have a lot of that happening in the workplace, and we have asked the government. Sister Stacy can speak to that shortly. We have asked the government to ratify Convention 190, and to, with that, now you can have policies in place for the public service and the private sector as it relates to sexual harassment, etc. And we have not gotten we have not gotten the response in terms of working with us to
Perhaps,
go in that way. So
perhaps you need to make the
you
appeal
have been
again.
saying, okay, you've been working with these agencies and
Yeah.
you've been doing all of this, but what you've been doing clearly have not been effective in decreasing or the type of crimes
But
that we continue to have
perhaps you
even in
need
the
to make
workplace.
perhaps you need to make the appeal again. There is another. Now you're talking about that, the violence in the workplace, and so there's another area. Even women who are self-employed, particularly farmers and so on, they go through some other form. It people may not look at it as direct violence, but when we have a lot of pre larceny, quite often we have males who will go and steal their produce and so on. That's a serious form of abuse, because you're taking away the person's livelihood. And a lot of time women farmers have to go out and work so hard in the fields, and then all that you have toiled, it just disappears from you. And while in other instances you might receive some assistance with that, when it's gone, it's gone.
Okay, Mr. Hello, good night. Welcome to Psu Speaks. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good night. Welcome to PSU Speaks.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
I just happened to just glance to the radio and hear um your program, and I think I recognize some voices and so on and things, which I think that they give name. Um, well, several issues that you are raising there. One, government don't have to respond to everything that come to their attention. You're making a reference about some laws that you wrote to the government and they haven't been respond. This society could respond. Mr. Farrell spoke about many of the organizations that are declined. I hope that he's not implying that it's because of this government why many of the organization is no more. So, Mr. Farrell, you could shed some light on that because whether this government or government hopefully to come, we will continue to have crime. And I think that the government have been doing their very best to um, to lessen the crime. But crime again, to you hear crime on top the radio with some of these radio announcer. You hear crime in the music. Just last week, Friday, and this is a good point to make here now. Um, you have these vans that are carrying the school children, and they stop at certain place, and where they say they hang out, and you could hear the kind of music that been playing and so on and things. So the van drivers them too are part of and parcel of the crime that we face here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The government have been doing their part. Every one of us as a citizen have a responsibility to do our part. The Prime Minister continues to say every one of us,
Thank you
the
so much.
church.
Okay, caller, you can sum up.
You want me to sum up?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Okay, if you think that I said enough, then fine. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
I'd just like to respond to one thing the caller
You have
said
30
because
seconds.
yeah, he mentioned me directly. In terms of when I said the social, I mean partners and so on, they have seemed to be on the decline. All I was doing was stating a fact. I wasn't pointing any finger at anybody, and he recognized that it is a fact.
So thank
All right.
you. Sister Stacy, any further comment? We know what the issues are, and we're talking about mainly the gender-based violence, the violence that has been happening within recent times with among women and girls mainly, and we wanted to spread it to say include gender-based, so that it includes everybody, and then we spread it as in violence and crimes generally. And we understand that everybody has to play a role. I think Mr. Harvey alluded to that before. We understand that everybody has to play a role, but we have to lay the base to remind the government of their obligations to us and what they need to do, and the discussions they need to have with civil society in terms of helping to fight crimes generally and also as it relates to women and girls. So, Stacy, any final thoughts? Because we want to move
Yes, Sister
on.
Shelley. Firstly, I just wanna thank Brother Harvey for mentioning the farmers, the female farmers who are being abused basically by the male thieves out there. I've never really thought of it, Brother Harvey, so I'm happy that you brought it up now. So it will be in our thoughts and kept there. One. Two, we've written on many occasions to Labor Department and to mobilization in relation to having Convention 190 ratified and to no avail. And we are hoping that they are listening now and will be willing to meet with us and see how we could move this forward. The convention, ILO Convention 190, this is a landmark international treaty adopted in June 2019 to eliminate violence and harassment in the world of work, including gender-based violence. It protects all workers, regardless of their employment status, across all sectors, formal and informal, and covers all aspects of the world of work beyond the workplace itself. The convention obliges employers and states to develop policies and take measures to prevent violence and harassment, promoting safe and respectful working environments. We are expected as trade unions to develop this even in our collective bargaining agreements. So, but we need the government on board so we can have the laws in place where, but we don't necessarily have to start with them. What as trade unions, we could now develop different areas. Small, we could start small by putting certain things in our collective agreement. But we are really hoping that the government will get on board with all the other countries who would have ratified this convention already, because this is a very important convention that is necessary for workers and all class of workers. Yes, Sister Shelley, I
Thank
think
you,
that's
Sister Stacy. I think we can take this
No.
call.
Oh.
You want to? Okay.
No, take a call. Take a call.
Caller, good night. Welcome to PSU Speaks. Hello. Hello. Caller, you can call back. Brother Boucher, go ahead.
Yes, it will be quite remiss of me not to make a comment on this particular topic. Constitutionally, there is protection for life and property. It's within our constitution. So the government has a constitutional duty to protect the life of its citizens, to ensure that they are safe. International law also speaks to the very same. Now, Minister Kizal Peters must be commended for making the statements that she have made. It is perhaps the first time in a long time we have heard such strong statements from a government minister. But her statements also indicate that this is a problem that exists and have been existing throughout the 25 years life of this government and have been getting worse. Now, he spoke about and urged women not to become desensitized. How do you become desensitized to an issue or an event? You become desensitized because it continues to repeat itself. And therefore, it becomes a norm, almost like a norm. And so you develop less and less of a sensitivity to the particular issue. Now, she's urging women not to become, or even people in general, not, and I agree with her. We must never become desensitized to the issue of violence against women. It is prevalent in the country, and the country have had a reputation with respect to violence against women for a long time, rivaling other countries in the world. Now, this requires leadership from the government. It requires leadership. It requires leadership because they have to bring everyone along and on board and take everybody's contribution to finding a solution. That is what leadership is all about. You may not have the answers yourself. So the government itself may not have the answers because clearly, they don't have the answers because it is getting worse. So they really don't have the answers. And maybe as a result of a lack of leadership, they have failed to take other opinions on board or solicit ideas for solution from other people. A lack of leadership. And that's what you have. You have a crisis of leadership on the issue of violence against women in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it has existed for a number of years. It is not new. It is only getting worse. No. There are many things that government can do. But as Madam Peters asks for the Vincentian public not to become desensitized, it appears to me, and I may suggest to you, that the government itself, the cabinet members who make up the government, mainly from the political side, have become desensitized to this whole issue of violence against women. And because, in my view, there is this desensitization with respect to them, it does not present itself as a priority. Now, let me give you an example. Education is a priority for the government. There are some who might think it is not, but I do believe it is. So every year, you may have increased scholarships, etc., etc. They may be focusing as a priority on tertiary education because we know the problems within the secondary and the primary. So when you see a priority, you see action from the government. Now, in the United States, we have seen where the President of the United States, Donald Trump, have called in the National Guard to go in certain cities because he thinks that the violence is so overwhelming, it requires some sort of other action. Now, you might not agree, or there's a lot of people who might not agree with his decisions, but the decision that he has made indicates that this is a priority for him in that particular area. And therefore, he is doing something to bring a halt to the increase. Okay? So when you see there is a priority, it becomes a priority. You see action from the government to arrest the problem. You have seen nothing from this government in the 25 years they have been in office that has led to arresting the problem. I have to just address the elephant in the room because I hear all of this talk, this nice talk. This nice talk gets nowhere unless there's political will. You mentioned C-190. Barbados have signed on to that. And you have indicated that we as a union have written to the government and to ministers to get them to sign on to it. It's not a priority, so they have not bothered. There is a Sexual Harassment Act, a draft bill, not an act as yet, sitting with the Labor Department for a number of years now. We're working it to bring it to Parliament. They have done nothing about it because it is not a priority. We have had sexual harassment being alleged, allegations against senior public servants. An example in the prison department. We cannot even get a permanent secretary to hold a meeting to address the issue. I heard this morning or yesterday on Boom FM about allegations against senior police officers. Allegations. And Jimmy was saying, if it was an ordinary person, somebody would be arrested. You're not seeing that. In other words, this issue of violence against women, the lack of initiative and action on the government part seems to indicate and suggest that it is not a priority for the government, and so it continues to get worse. They have either become desensitized and so to such an extent that it is not a priority for them. In other words, the safety of our women folks is not that important to the current government. If I challenge anyone, even those who are listening to Nice Radio, and those of you in the studio, if you want to do a survey, you may discover that the majority of Vincent John women do not feel safe in the country.
I agree.
And that whole safety, that perception of feeling safe is very important. So fundamentally, you need a government that is willing to do whatever it has to do to arrest this problem. You see, just like how you say you want to protect life during COVID, so you bring a draconian vaccine mandate, take away people's rights.
Mm-hmm.
And the false claim that you want to protect my right to protect my life. Like I don't have any ability to protect my own self. So you invade my own privacy in protecting myself and impose a vaccine mandate, a foreign drug on me. But you can't take a drastic initiative to correct the problem of violence against women in the country. And I tell you, it is loud. They do not care about the safety of the women in the country. That is what the lack of action is indicating to me. And I rest my case there.
Thank you, Brother Boucher. We heard the passion and we are in agreement with all that you said in terms of the obligations of the government and the fact that priority is not placed where priority really should be as it relates to addressing the issue of violence and crimes here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And sometimes when things happen, you hear the 7 days talk and everybody's talking and everybody's in their feelings and everybody have an opinion and we're going. But when the smoke is gone, what happens after that? And they have to realize by now that what they're doing is not quite effective. And it's time to go back to the drawing board and it's time to have new measures in place as to how we can address it. And it has to be done, as he rightfully said, through political will. Because we can be having all kind of plans and dreams and aspirations out here. If there's no political will, it's not getting anywhere. None of the policies and programs that we may suggest will be pushed. And therefore, I know the caller who called a while ago about what the government is doing and the good things. Thank you for your contribution. But we have to do what we have to do. We have to do what we see, we know. And the reality is just the reality. It is just what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, and gentlemen, yes, I forget we have an extra one. It is now 9:35, and we have the issue to address that we started last program as to whether or not St. Vincent and the Grenadines we have advanced economically and we have taken off from since 2007 to where we are now in 2025. I did read an aspect of the speech that was done by our Prime Minister Ralph E. Gonzalez on December 11th, 2007, when he was giving his speech and some of the things that he outlined. And then we would have to see how we can answer the question as to whether or not, looking at the different variables or the different areas, whether we look at the macroeconomic growth, we're going to talk about wages and cost of living, employment. We have to see where the growth is, because we're on the ground and we know our wage don't match the cost of living, really. But we'll see. So I want to just read a small portion. I'm not going to read everything that I read the last time when he was giving his speech in 2007. And he said, since 2001, the economy of St. Vincent and Grenadines has chalked up impressive achievement amidst enormous challenges and immense opportunities. The real economic growth has moved from moderate to robust. More jobs have been created as unemployment has fallen. Poverty has been declining. Equity is demonstrable at the center of economic policy. Surpluses on the central government current accounts have been routinely recorded, though admittedly not as large as would be ideally uh, desirable. The public debt, though increasing, and we know how high it is, has been sensibly used and managed as being and managed as sensibly used and managed and is being serviced without undue pain. Is that so?
No.
Is that true, Mr. Farrell? Okay. The fiscal situation overall is being prudently consolidated. An increasingly trained and disciplined labor force exists. Economic diversification has been continuing, and there is foreign direct investment has been increasing in strategic growth areas and so forth. And he went on and on and on and on. So this was in 2007. We are now in 2025. Can we say for sure? Can we say for sure whether or not the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mr. Harvey Farrell, based on what has been happening here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we're going to look at it in light of, I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, but I want to look at it in light of, I hope we have enough time, whether they were looking at the macroeconomic growth, whether we're looking at employment, because he spoke about employment increasing then, we're now in 2025, employment and job creation, whether wages and cost of living, where are we in terms of that? Because we every day you go to the supermarket, it doesn't match. Protection of labor, workers' rights and labor rights. We spoke about that a little bit. Government policies and social investment, poverty and inequality. All of that has to be examined. External vulnerability, sustainable development. All of these have to be examined for us to see whether or not we have really taken off economically, where we are, where that is concerned. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. In terms of responding, one of the things that might help us here in this regard, in terms of answering the question whether or not we are on the cusp of an economic takeoff. Well, we shouldn't be on a cusp now. We should have
taken off already.
Perhaps a simple definition for the cusp of an economic takeoff might suffice. A simple Google search on the cusp of an economic takeoff will give you something like this. It means an economy is on the verge of a period of rapid, sustained growth. It implies that conditions are favorable, with strong indicators like rising consumer demand, improving business confidence, and stable or improving economic fundamentals, positioning the economy for a long-awaited expansion and prosperity. I don't know if since that statement was made, we have moved the needle anyway closer to this. But there are a number of things that must be in place if we are talking that our economy is taking off at all. Had
because it was since 2007.
Yeah, but what have we seen? Have we seen the diversification, economic diversification? Have we seen that?
Nope.
what has been the focus? What has been the focus since then in terms of our economic diversification? Have we seen anything in terms of manufacturing? Has the manufacturing sector taken off? Have we gone anywhere? Have we developed at all? How is agriculture? Have we been able to diversify our agriculture? Are we still dependent on a monocrop? Um, and the agriculture we practice today, how how much of it, uh, how much exporting do we do? Has our internal market itself, has it risen? Has it expanded? These are the questions that we must ask ourselves. And if we can't answer those in the affirmative, I am afraid that that was just, I mean,
So are we
a
better
pipe
off?
dream.
Are we better off in 2025 than in 2007
Never.
as a people?
Some sectors of our of some persons might might be quite better off, but is that the majority of personnel? When we're looking at taking off as an economy, we don't really want to leave anybody behind. So it means that all persons, all citizens should be moving at the same time.
So some persons are benefiting and it's not being spread from what you're saying to everybody to get mainly a piece of the cake. So is
And one of the other thing is that our jobs would have to keep pace with it. But I was looking at an article earlier. It's the September 17th article, actually, about just a couple of days ago. And it's the Minister of Finance urging young persons to study for the future jobs.
okay.
But, he's lamenting the fact that although they send away so many persons to study, we can't find people to fit the jobs, you know. So I just found it, I found it rather, I found it a rather interesting article.
Because they're the ones who would give these scholarships for persons to go
Yeah,
without.
and
So due process is not done in terms of identifying the areas that they need people for. Is it just like a
yes,
routine that you
right.
can say, well, this is the education revolution time, and we're doing
But
so much, and
but you see, here is where here is how the article starts. Minister of Finance Camilo Gonsalves is calling on Vincentians to pursue study in keeping with the demands of the future job market. But he went on to talk. He says that the leadership of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College are tired of hearing him speak about career counseling and better interventions. Now, the thing is, it's not all the young persons who are looking towards the job market are going to the community college. So when we are preparing, if we have a well-developed society, you also have to look at education for those persons who will not go to community college, because all of our children would never go there. So those who don't go there, we have to prepare for them as well. So what have we been doing, or what are we doing to prepare for those persons who will not go to community college? Because they too have to come into the job market, and the job market should hold a place for them. Okay? So I am when the minister speaks like this, he leaves me in the lurch somewhere. I think we should still be expecting something. I don't know if our president has any comment to make on this now, because
Brother Bocha, you want to come in now, or you want to? Because I wanted to read some information that I have here. Any comments before?
We can go ahead and read. Go ahead.
Okay. So From my research, the SVG economy has grown somewhat, from 3.3 GDP, that is real GDP growth, from 3.3% in 2007. Recently, according to World Bank, recent enough as in 2023 and IMF, to 6%. Per capita GDP has also increased over the long term, but they say it raises questions about the sustainability of growth and whether workers share, and you mentioned this, in its benefits. Sectoral data from SBG Stats Office indicate that services, particularly tourism and trade, dominates the GDP, while agriculture has declined in relative contribution. This suggests, according to them, that the economy remains narrow,
But you see, if agriculture
with
has
workers
declined,
exposed to external shock. So you don't have that widespread in terms of the growth that we have going to what's
right? But you see,
everybody.
but the report is stating, if it says that agriculture has declined, it means that there's absolutely no growth in the
Right.
rural areas.
Correct.
So because rural
And that
areas
is why our
will grow
import bill
as a
has to be
result of
so high.
agriculture,
Right.
and then we don't have that.
Mhm.
We don't have hotels and all of that kind of thing in the rural areas. So what
But
has
that is
become,
critical. If
what
we
have
have in
become of
agriculture decline, that is
so
critical.
then we are talking about,
And we want to decrease our import bill. How?
so how are we going to do that? Our
Okay.
food import bill when agriculture has declined.
Mhm.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Paul, Brother Boucher, sorry.
Well, Javi has highlighted, what should I say, some of what are the explanation of what the phrase on the cusp of an economic takeoff means, or what it suggests. Now, this particular phrase was actually coined by an economist, W. Rusto, back in the 1960s, when he was looking at the development of countries. And he basically said and suggested that countries go through like 5 stages of economic development: traditional, society, transitional stage. And then you talk about the takeoff and the drive to maturity. The United States have gone through all 5 stages. Governments take countries through different stages. So we have gone from the traditional society stage. So successive governments, the NDP government, the Labour government in the past, have brought us through that particular stage and onto the stage where we are in a transition. Now, when the Prime Minister made those statements, if you look at them in reality, they are really just political rhetoric. Because listen, Guyana, that has just discovered oil, has been described as being on the cusp of an economic takeoff. The predictions for Guyana is that their economic growth, that they will have consistent economic growth for the foreseeable future. So you're talking about getting you to a stage where your economic growth is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are several preconditions for economic takeoff. You must have a strong and stable political system. Now, a strong and stable political system also suggests that it is a political system that considers the entirety of your population. That is, when you're moving your population onwards, you're moving everybody onwards together.
Correct.
You're not being divisive. And a part of your society moves, and another part is stagnated based on your policies. The country has to advance together. Now, it is not no secret that St. Vincent is so divided that those who seem to advance happen to be on the gravy train, and all others have to struggle or crawl to get forward. Your country can't move in that direction, right? So that is one of the preconditions for takeoff, and that is one of the fundamental problems that this government has had. You have segregated the country between yellow and red. Yellow don't get the jobs, red get the jobs. So when Straker say own the jobs, that is part of the whole segregation. So while you're talking about on the cusp of a takeoff, the conditions to get you there, you are divided. You're actually your worst enemy, because it is either you don't understand what you are stating, or you are deliberately doing whatever you are doing. Because if you understand what you are stating, you will look at the country as neither red nor yellow, but as a Vincentian people that have to move
Policies in
forward.
place.
Right? So that is one. So you have a strong and stable political system. And that is necessary for you to have economic growth. Because if all of the people are prospering, the economy can have a bump in that regard. Now, you have to also have the presence of a modern sector. Now, you all just talk about agriculture and all of that. Our export. So we have agriculture that is not well developed. In the traditional economy, you produce via agriculture, but the consumption mainly is internal. When you're at this particular juncture in your economic development, you are exporting as well as you are feeding your own people. But there isn't much of export with respect to agriculture. You just have to look the other day. I see the sharing planting like joke.
And I ain't get on.
I mean, they're knocking dog. Right? So we still have a lot to do, because we have not been able to move our agriculture in that direction where we can be export driven. And that is a problem. The majority of our food is imported. That, again, is another problem. Technological innovation. We are nowhere close there. There is some movement, because you can see and you hear of one or two persons, private sector persons trying to do something. But we are nowhere close to where we ought to be to even talk about being on the cusp of an economic takeoff.
Paul, while you were looking at that, I just looked at something here. Simple Google search again, and it broke down what cusp and economic takeoff, and this is what it says. The word cusp means at the point of something new or on the verge of.
Yeah.
And then you explain economic takeoff. This refers to the period where the economy's growth accelerates significantly. Have we ever seen a period of time since that pronouncement where our economic growth has taken off significantly and become self-sustaining? So it is not just going up, peak and trough peak. It must be
Exactly.
self-sustaining over,
Yes.
leading to increased production, employment, and overall economic prosperity. Have we seen any of those?
No, we haven't. And so when Shelley would have touched on economic growth there for the recent period, you actually have to look at it over the period from 2007 to now. And what Harvey is saying there is what you will discover, right? The average economic growth is somewhere below three point something, because you have had so much growth that were low that even though you're having 4 or 5% now, it does not translate into that economic takeoff, because it has to be consistent. That's why I say Guyana, that is projected to be on the cusp of an economic takeoff, can't speak that way, because their oil resources has suggested that their economic growth is going to be sustained for a very long time, because the oil resource is expected to last a very long time. They can speak of that. For us to even begin to seriously think about on the cusp of an economic takeoff, you have to have development in your agricultural sector and the other sectors. You mentioned a skilled workforce. Let me just touch on this last one because I know that your time has gone.
We have 2 minutes.
Yes. You mentioned the skilled workforce. We are producing a lot of graduates from the community college. But the minister recently said that they have to bring in foreigners to take up the skilled jobs because there are not enough persons in St. Vincent to qualify for those jobs. In other words, he's admitting to a failure of the state to invest in skills training.
Workers, correct.
That's the problem. Masons, carpenters, even when they had after the hurricane, they could not find enough masons and carpenters, plumbers and electricians to get the work done. And there's so many people on the blocks. It goes back to the so-called education revolution. Because not everyone is academically inclined. And therefore people might be more skilled. And instead of investing more in TVET training and all of that, that is not our focus. Our focus is mainly on academics. So our skilled workforce is not properly developed and there has not been a focus on developing our skilled workforce. So I will rest there, Shelley, and maybe when
Thank you, Brother Boucher. And this is, I guess, we have to continue because we have to go through all of the areas that would fall under this cusp of whether or not we would have taken off, whether we're still there, whether we're still waiting to take off, whatever it is as it applies to what is happening in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and whether or not it is real growth that they're talking about, and whether or not the average Vincentian is seeing or feeling part of that growth that the government continue to talk about. And sustainability is so important, and that is what we don't have. We might talk about the highs. Okay, we have a 6% here, we have a 4% there, whatever, but has it been sustained over the years? That is for the other program. I think it's somewhere around the 14th of October 2025. So, brothers and sisters, I'm going to give Gwyneth. She has indicated she wants 1 minute.
Sister Shelley, and don't say anymore because the good time going. No, I have something I really have to put out here tonight. Now, some time ago, the Young Guns have said that public servants are sabotaging the government. So I have a question to ask. Who is sabotaging the health promotion unit or the officers? Because it has been approved over a year and 9 months since a traveling allowance was approved for 5 members of staff. They were getting a basic $100 for traveling for 20 plus years. So it was approved now to 250. And as I said,
Okay.
close to 2 years, and you cannot get the money. So
Find the NDP employee who's
Fi-
stalling.
well, there's somebody who is stalling it, and I don't know who. And the other thing I want to mention now, I saw the Prime Minister trying to pass a ball, right? So I wanted to find out what that was all about. I never saw him at the opening of a netball tournament, but this is him at the netball tournament. And then he's paying the players $200 a game, a match. So Shelly,
Every player?
yeah,
Oh,
it's a lot of money that goes into this. And on top of that, you have the schools can't even get toilet paper. You have the school at Emmanuel in Kingston, JP Eustace, have to be home, right? But we have to take some time next
yeah. So we
session
will.
for that, because it's a lot of things happening that we need to
So, ladies and gentlemen, I know 2 hours is just not enough time for us to
I think we might have to look
think
for 3,
about
so we might
to
have to
go
start
through all
at
of this
7
because we have to, and maybe we will start with this topic
next week, next time.
the next time. I'm not
And
sure if I'll
so
be
we'll
able
take
to.
the hour,
Right, to go through
and
this
then
because we have to go through it, and we're going to invite Mr. Farrell to come back, and of course we would send our invitation if he's
he
still
will
out
be back. He'll be back.
to Mr. Boucher and the
Mr.
PRO.
Boucher will be back
So, ladies and gentlemen,
in
Sister
studio.
Stacy left. So, Mr. Harvey, thank you for coming. We appreciate your presence. Thank you, Brother Paul, Mr. Boucher, for being here. And we want to thank our listeners, for those who were listening in St. Vincent and in the diaspora. Thank you for listening. Thank you for those who called the program. Thank you for your contribution. We really appreciate it. And we will take up where we left off tonight in our next program of PSU Speaks. So have a good week, have a productive week, and I would like to encourage our public servants to always give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Good night and God
Thank you.
bless.
The protection of workers' rights is critical to the development of any country. Workers are the driving force behind any economy. The Public Service Union presents PSU Speaks, an interactive, informative, bi-weekly program discussing matters affecting the working class. Tune in to Nice Radio on 90.3, 96.7, and 101.3 every second and fourth Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. PSU Speaks. Don't you miss it.
Today, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Tomorrow,